She held the bowl in trembling hands, her eyes wide with fear. He stared at her quietly, silence heavier than the night around them. Something unseen moved in the shadows, making her heart pound faster. One wrong step tonight could change everything they had ever known. If stories like this speak to your heart, subscribe and sit closer. There is much more to hear. Chinwe was a young woman with bright eyes and gentle hands who cared deeply for her neighbors. She lived in a small Lagos neighborhood where the sun baked red dust into the streets. Her husband, Tunde, tall and quiet, worked long hours at the local market to provide for them. Their tiny home smelled of fresh yam porridge and the faint sweetness of roasted plantains. Every morning Chinwe swept the courtyard while humming soft songs she learned from her mother. Neighbors greeted her warmly, but whispered when she passed, sensing worry behind her smile. Tunde returned each evening tired but polite, never noticing the subtle tension that lingered at home. Chinwe sometimes stared at the empty walls as if they might answer the questions she dared not ask. One evening, Chinwe noticed a stranger outside their gate, watching silently with cold, sharp eyes. The next day, Tunde came home unusually quiet, dropping a heavy bag. Without a word, Chinwe felt unease coil in her stomach as shadows seemed to stretch across every corner. The stranger appeared again at sunset, nodding at Tunde in a way that made her shiver. Chinwe asked softly, "Who is that man standing there every evening watching us closely?" Tunde avoided her gaze, mumbling something about business, but his voice carried fear. She recognized that night. A window rattled though the wind was calm, and something whispered through the room. Chinwe clutched her blanket, feeling the weight of danger pressing silently against her family's door. The stranger's presence grew bolder, appearing inside the courtyard when no one expected him. Tunde tried to speak firmly, but his words trembled as fear flickered in his eyes. Chinwe's hands shook as she prepared food, every movement shadowed by silent dread. Neighbors whispered rumors of misfortune, and Chinwe felt their eyes pierce her soul. The stranger left tokens of warning, a broken clay pot or a dark smear on walls. Tunde pleaded silently for normalcy, yet each day brought more unexplained threats and tension. Chinwe stayed awake at night listening for footsteps, her heart hammering with unspoken worry. Each morning began with heavy silence, and the air in their home felt thick with fear. Chinwe's eyes welled with tears as Tunde avoided discussing the stranger who haunted their nights. Every meal felt uneasy, the air tasting of fear and silent questions that could not be asked. The neighbors' hushed gossip grew louder, some warning them to leave before harm arrived. Tunde began locking doors early, yet footsteps echoed on the walls, chilling him deeply. Chinwe dreamed of shadowed figures stealing through their home, her heart racing with panic. Tunde grew irritable, blaming himself for their helplessness, but Chinwe whispered prayers into the night. One evening, the stranger left a note folded carefully, words inked in threats that froze her. If this story is touching you already, subscribe and stay with us. The most important part is about to unfold. Chinwe could no longer sleep, nightmares clawing at her mind. Every single restless night, Tunde slumped in the corner of their home, silent tears running down his dusty cheeks. The stranger's threats escalated, leaving broken objects and ominous marks that terrified them both. Chinwe whispered to herself, "What have we done to deserve this darkness in our home?" Neighbors avoided them now, eyes filled with pity and fear, no one offering help. Tunde's hands shook as he lit candles, praying they might ward off some unseen evil. Chinwe held the last portion of their meal back, fearing hunger more than the stranger outside. A cold wind rattled the windows, and she knew something was coming that would change everything. At dawn, Chinwe discovered a hidden note under her pillow, written in Tunde's careful handwriting. It revealed a secret plan he had been preparing to confront the stranger and protect them. Chinwe felt hope bloom in her chest, a warmth she thought had been lost forever. Tunde confessed he had hidden money and letters that exposed the stranger's schemes against their family. The stranger had underestimated their resilience, believing fear could control hearts that refused surrender. Chinyu's courage returned as she realized they had strength the darkness could never break together. They planned carefully, each step a quiet rebellion against the terror that had shadowed them. The morning sun touched their faces, a signal that their fate might finally shift toward light. Chinyu gripped Tun's hand tightly. As they approached the stranger standing at the edge of their courtyard, Tun stepped forward, voice firm. "Your time of terror ends now. We will not bow." Chinyu raised her voice, anger and courage blending. "Leave our home or face the truth of your deeds." The stranger lunged suddenly, but Tund had prepared, blocking him and forcing him back toward the gate. Neighbors watched from a distance, mouths agape, as courage clashed with cruelty in the fading light. Chinyu felt adrenaline surge, throwing the last warning object at the stranger, striking him squarely. Finally, the stranger stumbled, retreating into shadows, and Tund and Chinyu stood together, hearts racing yet relieved. Neighbors came forward to help, offering apologies and support, their fear turning into respect. Tund and Chinyu rebuilt their home, repairing broken walls and sweeping away the lingering darkness. The community celebrated their courage quietly, whispers of admiration spreading through the red dust streets. Chinyu finally cooked freely again, sharing meals with neighbors without fear of hidden threats. Tun smiled more openly now, carrying Chinyu's basket and laughing at small jokes only they understood. Chinyu held Tund close, tears of relief mixing with smiles, knowing they had survived together. Months passed, and Chinyu and Tund's home was filled with laughter, warmth, and shared meals. Again, the neighbors greeted them with smiles, respect replacing the fear that once lingered in the streets. Chinyu often told their stories softly to children, emphasizing courage, patience, and unity in adversity. Tund built a small garden outside, teaching neighbors that growth comes from care and persistence. They remembered the terror and hardship, but chose to focus on the strength they discovered within. Every night, they prayed quietly, grateful for survival and for the love that had endured. Chinyu whispered, "Even in darkness, hope can find us if we hold fast and never yield." Life moved forward gently, the moral clear. Courage, unity, and compassion can change even the darkest fate.